Captain Hawkins.
John, how we doing?
Welcome to season 2 of the Pirate.
I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, well, we usually start these things out with what are your ratings?
So as of right now, I have an ATP and worked my way up from obviously onward through private, instrument, commercial, CFI, multi-engine, and then ATP as well. And then I have my helicopter private and my seaplane private as well.
Oh, sick. So, where'd you get your helicopter?
Back in Goshen, Indiana, where I did basically all of my primary training was down there. The airport manager, he's a longtime mentor of mine, was also a longtime helicopter DPE.
Sick.
Really rare to find in a place like Indiana.
Yeah.
So he kind of stoked my interest in that, and I took some lessons out there. There's a helicopter there temporarily made available for us to do training, and he said he would do the checker at the end. So
that's awesome.
It's a lot of fun if you ever get the opportunity to.
Dude, that's on the list, but it's a laundry list of things that you can do in aviation.
It always is, right?
Yeah. So walk us through your training process at Goshen, Indiana.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What sparked your interest originally in aviation?
So originally I grew up with just a massive desire, a burning desire and interest in aviation. Yeah. I've always wanted to be a pilot since I was real little.
Yeah.
My uncles and my grandpa and my dad were all pilots, but just recreationally. None of them ever pursued it professionally. So going through elementary school, it was always toy airplanes over toy cars, and then middle school, and then in high school, that's when it started getting a little more serious. My parents signed me up for lessons from there. So
nice. So fresh out of high school,
mm-hmm.
you were still in high school?
I was still in high school. I got my private
nice.
in high school there, and then finished up instrument and commercial out in college in Kansas there, Heston College.
So what was that like? You're going to college. What did you go to college for?
I went for aviation, or
Perfect.
aviation management is really what it was. But
yep.
yeah, and so that came with obviously all the flying stuff. But I didn't do the Part 141 program. I did the Part 61 because I came in with a bunch of hours and some other stuff too. So that way I could kind of go a little faster than what the program was calling for. So
yeah. So for those who don't know, kind of walk us through the differences between 61 and 141. And I apologize. I'm going to check on something real quick.
That's okay.
Here.
Go ahead.
Just going to make sure. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, 141 is much more structured. It's much more, there's a syllabus you have to follow to a T.
Right.
College courses, I think, if I remember correctly, are required to have some form of 141 program in order to graduate. I think that may be the case. Whereas 61, you see that more so at your mom and pop flight schools, and that's more so for everyone from hobbyists to people that are pursuing it professionally, but there's no syllabus. Right. So with the 141 side of things, with the syllabus, this week you may be working on steep turns, and you follow the syllabus and you check things off as you go. And then the next week you may be working on stalls and you check things off as you go through there. Whereas Part 61, my instructor, as an instructor, you could go to your student and say, today we're working on stalls. Okay, so those did not go great. Maybe tomorrow we'll work on steep turns instead. We'll park stalls for now.
Yep.
So you can kind of pick and choose and work through things as needed.
And so the big difference is that the end goal is really similar. You get the rating.
Yeah.
Technically, there are lower hour requirements for 141, which is a big draw when people are looking at it on paper.
Yeah.
But very few people get their private certificate with 35 or 40 hours. Most people are going to 60, 65 hours to get everything because landings are hard.
Right, yeah,
but
exactly.
With Part 61, you have a lot more flexibility in how you can approach it. And one of the 141 is great in my opinion, and tell me what you think about this. If you want to become a pilot and you don't have a lot of inherent ambition and like maybe personal drive where you're, or personal discipline perhaps, where you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to be studying on my own. I'm going to get a simulator. I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to practice this stuff off the clock and then come back in and I'm going to be good at it when it's time to pay for a lesson. If you're more like, hey, I just want to jump in a tube in the river and start here and end as an ATP.
Yeah.
That seems to be, to me, the big advantage of a 141.
I would agree wholeheartedly with that too. And I think 141 serves its purpose for people that are after that too. You can get what's called a restricted ATP.
Yep.
Not to get too deep in the weeds there, but allows you to get your ATP at a lower hour requirement. Instead of 1500, I think it's 1200 or 1250.
So 1250 with an associate's, 1000 with
the
bachelor's, and 750 is military. But the thing there is the flight schools might not even tell you that nobody's hiring at that.
Right.
Your ATP at 1500 hours does not mean anything right now. It did 2 years ago.
Right. When
2 years ago you had an RATP at 1000 hours, you were good to go.
Right. And you're going straight to the regional.
Yeah.
Spent 6 months there on the main line.
Yeah, exactly.
And I had a lot of buddies that did that.
Yeah.
They went and spent 6 months at a regional and got picked up by United or American or whoever, you know.
And there's something to say. There is something to say for getting through as quickly as possible and getting into that position where you are technically hireable, because then as soon as there's a hiring pickup, you're ready to go.
Right.
And that was the case. I knew a guy who worked for Coke, and he was like, I just want to get through this as quickly as possible. And he went 0 to hero in 6 months.
Right.
And that's like an incredible timeline to go from no ratings to an ATP rating. But it put him in a position where he could apply as soon as Coke was hiring, and they were like, yep, that's all we need.
Pick him up right away.
Yeah. So there are advantages to the 141 program, but for a lot of people, the Part 61, where there's the additional flexibility, that turns out to be a little bit better deal in a lot of cases. So there.
Yeah. And the Part 61 worked well for me, and I think you hit the nail on the head too. It just kind of matters what you're after is the direction you should take.
Yep, absolutely. I started out Part 141, and then I did the math, and I was like, wait a second, if I buy my own airplane, it'll end up being cheaper overall, even though I have to do 250 extra hours.
Right. Yep.
And so that was, it ended up being super cheap the way that I went about it, but not everybody has that option.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all I had.
So you got an associate's or
I got an associate's.
Okay.
And I was going to go back online and finish out finish a bachelor's. Ended up not doing that because I was a CFI, so I instructed for about a year or so, and then I got picked up by our local 135 company flying a Citation Encore.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I just threw an application in at like 800 hours and change, not expecting anything. And like 2 days later, I got an offer letter back.
No way.
Yeah, so threw me in the right seat, gave me an SIC type rating in the Encore, and away we went. I was building turbine time, so I got extremely lucky in that sense. Right place, right time. I had also grown up working at the airport in high school, so the guys at the charter company, the owner of the charter company, knew me. And so I think that kind of gave me a leg up in a way.
Yeah, and those connections where you have people know your reputation, people see how hard you've worked, that counts for more than a lot. I know a guy who recently got hired below minimums, below their hiring minimums, not below their insurance minimums, but it was because he's a known quantity, because they know that he's a hard worker, they know the time and dedication he's put into his ratings and his work before, and they're like, yeah, we'd rather train a guy up who has the right stuff than have somebody who has the right time, but may just
may not be the right personality or clash of personalities or whatever have you. So so that was a huge boost, and I was able to come in and build turbine time at 850 hours, which is so hard to find. So I got extremely lucky in that sense, but also too, I think it helped being, like you said, being a known quantity or being a known person, being a known personality as well, helped a ton. So you started out in the right seat of the Citation. Where do you go from there? So right seat, I was there for, I want to say, a year. And so you can get two different type ratings in a jet. One's SIC only, meaning right seat duties. SIC duties are, SIC stands for second in command. Yep. So you have your SIC in the right seat, PIC And that's just the way we call it in the charter small jet world. In the airlines, it'd be captain and first officer.
Right.
So, but we're not the airline, so we, SIC, PIC, right? So I was logging SIC time, and then after a year, I renegotiated and said, hey, I would love to get a PIC type rating, but I didn't have the hours to be a full-on PIC, so I couldn't log the PIC time yet, unless it was a dead leg, but I'll come back to that. So I renegotiated, got a full PIC type rating. The difference in the type rating when they send you down for the type rating, the SIC type rating has a few less things on the checklist for the check ride itself. When you go back for the full PIC type rating, they add those things back in. And then now you're legally allowed to log PIC time. Right. Under our 135 and some insurance minimums we had, I can only log PIC from the left seat on like dead legs or Part 91 legs.
Right.
But again, I would have been 22, I think, at the time. I was eating that up all day, every day, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And so the difference there, 135 is basically for hire for the public. So you can take contracts from people who only know you as a charter company. They don't know you personally. They're not connected with the company whatsoever. They're just paying you for a...
Pretty much, yeah, I guess. So yeah, to clarify, I guess, between 91 and 135, like you said, 135 I could advertise, or the company, I guess, could advertise and say, we have jets and pilots, here's our rates, do you want to fly somewhere, we'll take you wherever. Whereas 91 would be any leg that's not what's called a live leg, dead leg, so we're not getting paid for that leg, we're repositioning the airplane, basically, would be under Part 91. Part 91 is private individual flying.
You can also use it for... companies use it to fly their own executives around. Yeah. So the executives know the flight crew. They're part of the company. Right. So it's a more intimate relationship. You're financially and ideally personally involved. Right. And so you know what's going on a little more rather than, oh, that company has the best rate and so I'll go with them. Right. So that's some of the differences between...
So I fly and manage a corporate flight department now is what I do. So I fly at PIC and a Citation Sovereign. I'm the chief pilot on that airplane too for this company and this family. So it's all under 91. It's just for them and their company. But like you said, under 91 you can't advertise to general
holding
public.
Out, is that what they call it?
Holding out, I think, is what the terminology in the regs.
So that just like hanging your tile out that, hey, we can fly you around. Yeah. So you go from the right seat to technically qualified for the left seat, although not insured for it. Correct. For live legs. What's that like?
So I really enjoy that. I flew with a lot of guys that had been at the company for a long time, and they had come up through like hauling checks at night in the Cessna 310 and a Navajo and that kind of stuff. So I had great stories, and they had a ton of experience. I had flown with a handful of guys that I just adored and loved flying with, because a lot of times they would just kind of turn over control to you and say, like, here you go, and they'd monitor you, but they would just kind of let you figure it out. They'd keep you on a long leash in a sense, right? And then you'd land and you'd debrief with them, and they'd talk you through, like, hey, you did great, but I think you could improve on this, or here's a technique you can use to better your landing, or better this, or some things to look out for. So it was an awesome opportunity to learn a lot as a low-time guy from guys that have a ton more experience in these airplanes than I did.
That's one of the benefits of two-pilot crews, where you can, even today when I'm flying with other pilots who have similar time to me, if I got, once in a while we'll fly around some of our own guys just to reposition or for a rescue mission, and I always ask for feedback. I'm like, what do you have for me? And just the other day, one of the guys I was flying with was like, hey, you could square up your pattern a little more. And I was like, yeah, I've been flying in the backcountry my whole career. I could be a little more square and a little more precise on that. And it makes a difference when you roll out and you've made a perfect 20-degree turn to final, and you're lined up with the runway, and you've got white over red. That feels so good, and it's so precise and professional, rather than being, a little wander.
Tight end or a 45 into the final or whatever.
Exactly. So that opportunity to learn in a 2-pilot crew is super valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And that plays into kind of like some of the CRM stuff too, of like, you can lean on the guy next to you and say like, hey, I'm going to run the checklist. Can you monitor the radios for me while I run this thing? Or, hey, I'm going to get the weather. Can you do this? I mean, it's just, having that extra guy there is really nice, especially for some of the busier airports we go into. If, we're going out to New York and down to Atlanta and Miami and that kind of stuff, and it gets busy down there. And I've done that stuff single pilot, but man, it's easier when there's two guys there. You're worried about flying, the other guy's worried about radios and checklists and
He's
stuff. So
putting the stuff in, and you're not having to worry about keeping it straight and level while you're dialing in waypoints and updating your clearance and ready to copy. Sure, and trying to remember it.
Exactly.
So you fly, you get typed in the left. Where do you go from there?
So I spent 3 years there. Still staying as an SIC, like on paper, but still having the full PIC type rating. I stayed there for 3 years. My wife and I then got married, and we wanted to do some traveling, so I left that job. We did some traveling, and then after that, we basically came to the conclusion that my wife and I have lived in Indiana our whole lives, in the Midwest, besides college. And I had always had Alaska on the brain from high school and some summers in college coming up here working. So we were talking back and forth kind of about like, well, I don't know, do you want to move to Colorado or where do you want to go? And my wife brought up Alaska, and I said, are you serious? She said, yeah. It was done after that. I said, okay, done. We're booking stuff. We're looking for a house. We're doing this. Like, so we made it work. So we moved up here then, and I was kind of looking for a job and ended up at Lake Clark Air through mutual family connections. So applied there. They liked all the time I had, and I got in, and that's kind of how I got some time up here then.
Sweet. So what did you start out in at Lake Clark?
So they threw me in the 207. Because that's just the way they do, work your way up. 207, then they checked me out in the Bonanza. And this is all in the span of like, I should go back and look, but span of a couple months. 207, Bonanza, Navajo. And I spent a good while in the Navajo. I don't miss the Navajo, but there's a special place in my heart for it. And then from there up into the 99, all within a year.
Nice.
And then eventually the King Air 100 as well, which I think is what you're in now. So, and I did come in with some King Air 90 time too.
Nice.
So that helped a ton, having that experience. I could progress very quickly.
So what were the biggest differences you saw between flying in the States and flying up in Alaska?
Oh, tons. I was totally humbled. So coming from the States and in the jet world, you're going up to 41,000 feet, 43,000 feet. You're in the IFR system all the time. You're doing RNAV arrivals, RNAV departures, ILS approaches, right? You're IFR, and in an IFR, especially in lower 48, you're kind of in that IFR box, I like to say, right? You don't really stray, and that system works great for busier places. I forgot what it was like to fly VFR until I came up here, so I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, but so like they were like, well, just go do it via VFR. I'm like, oh, okay, I hope I remember how to do this, and it all came back quick, but so I'd say that was probably the biggest difference. And then going into places that are gravel or don't have approaches, or I talk a lot about, with my friends back home, I talk a lot about like the tribal knowledge piece of it. Like a lot of times the stuff will not be written down anywhere, so you go talk to like Glenn Senior or whoever, say, hey, I'm going in here, but the winds are blowing this way, and they'll say, well, if you hug this side of the canyon, and then swing it in this way or go around this way, and then you'll be fine there. So, but that's not written down anywhere. That's all.
No, I had that happen just the other day. I was going into Perryville, and I was landing runway 2 because it was quartering from the left, but from the left it's coming over the volcano right there, and so I got down and I hit a 2,200 foot a minute downdraft on final, and I went around, got us out safe. But one of my passengers actually was a retired 135 pilot. He'd owned his own 135. He'd flown into Perryville probably over 1,000 times. He was like, look, if the wind's coming from there, you just take the tailwind component and land the other direction. And he like showed me how it worked and how the winds affect it coming over the volcano right there.
And I bet you won't forget that.
No, not very soon. So that tribal knowledge is huge. There are a bunch of places like that where you wouldn't expect it, especially with how the winds come over. And a lot of these airports or airstrips are, they're just right against a mountain in either along the beach or in a beach that didn't exist, like in Sandpoint.
Exactly.
That's a completely man-made airstrip. It's all dirt that they pulled out and made basically an aircraft carrier right next to a rock wall.
Pretty much.
And so with the right winds, it's
gets
rough.
a little funky out there, right?
Yeah. So that talking to people and getting that tribal knowledge, as you called it.
Yeah. I would say that's definitely the biggest difference. And there's a lot of they send you out the door and then you get to figure it out. Yeah. And I say get to. There's some you have to, but obviously you get to figure it out. And that for me is really exciting.
Yeah.
I like that because then it's a lot of problem solving.
Yeah. There's a lot of that especially with Lake Clark, where it's like you have your passengers with origins and destinations, and there you go.
Yep.
And that's it. It's like, oh, okay.
Okay, here we go.
And you got to make sure, for one, that the airports are open and not Notre Dame closed.
Right, exactly.
Because that happens once in a while. Nobody else is looking out for that.
Exactly.
It's your responsibility.
Yep. Or the runway conditions too, and someone may not be as trained up, and they'll say, well, it's a little soft. What does a little soft mean? You know?
Exactly.
So you got to kind of go and figure it out and see for yourself. And Yeah. Whereas on the jet, so I fly a Sovereign now full time under Part 91, and we have a whole computer system. We punch in our passengers' weights, their approximate baggage weights, and it punches out our weight and balance for us, and our fuel required, to get to our alternate within all of our legal minimums and stuff like that. So it just is all right there. It makes life really easy. So
You got in the 99s and in the 100s. You said at Lake Clark for a year, or that was a year to get up to the?
It was probably about, I want to say 6 months to do all of that. And again, the only reason it took such a short time is I came in with all this turbine time and flying experience. But I was there for about a year before my wife and I had to move back to Indiana. Not to get into too much detail, we had a sickness in the family. My mom had passed, so we had to pack up all of our stuff and move home. But that was
it's life.
Yeah, that's life. It wasn't our time. It wasn't up to us. So
yeah. Well, one of the things that you brought up, coming in with a lot of time, and a lot of people, when we start them out at Lake Clark, get kind of frustrated that we start them out in a single. And even I came into Lake Clark with 1,400 hours, and almost all of it was in Alaska. And they started me out. They didn't start me out in the 207 because that was parked in Port Ellsworth.
Okay, got it.
But they started me out in the Bonanza, and I already had hundreds of hours in Navajo, and I was like, I'm not gonna get stuck in a Bonanza.
Right.
And they were like, no. They just want to see that your decision making is good, that you're not going to screw up the props, that you're not going to leave the gear up. And if you do that, then it's tens of thousands of dollars cheaper if you do it in a single.
Exactly.
Rather than in something big and fast.
Right. That's just the system they have in place, and like you said, I think you nailed it. They just want to see that you have the skill set and that you're a good stick and that you're not going to royally screw something up.
Yep. So you moved back to Indiana.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there?
So I drove back. My wife had a newborn at the time, so she flew back, and I wasn't willing to leave I have a Toyota Tacoma that I love very much. I wasn't willing to leave it up here. So anyways, I drove that back, and this is where this big luck component in, because I don't like when people say well, if you just follow these steps, you'll end up at this great job.
Yeah, no.
You need to work hard towards stuff, but the other piece of that is luck, and then having the right connections and building your reputation.
Absolutely.
So on my drive back from Alaska, took 6 days, had a lot of time, so I would just make phone calls and call people and catch up. I called my former, I guess he was a chief pilot at the time, but my former mentor of mine, his name's Bill Kern, legendary guy. I would put him up there with Glenn Sr. in terms of experience. He's got tons of time. But I just happened to call him because I wanted to catch up with him. I hadn't chatted with him for a while. And we were chatting, and I was asking him, hey, do you have any openings at my old job here? That he's like, yeah, we do. We could really use you, but I'd be really upset with myself if I didn't tell you about this 91 opportunity in a Sovereign. They're looking for someone let me put you in touch with him. I think you'd be a great fit. So he transferred the contact information. I sat with it for 2 days on the drive, and I called their current, I guess if you want to call him director of operations, I'm not sure what his whole title is, but anyways, I called him and they said, hey, I hear from Bill that you guys are looking for another guy in your Sovereign. I would love to come fly for you guys. And he said, hello.
Oh, shit. Oh. We won't tell Aubrey about that.
Okay.
I hope she doesn't watch this.
Right.
We'll close these now.
Sounds good.
All right, so you're calling this guy about the Sovereign?
Yeah, so I told him, the situation, coming home, and I'll be home by this date. He's like, yeah, that'd be great. Text me your hours or kind of what your experience is, and we can chat. So I get home, I get settled, and like 2 days later, I'm down in the city I work out of now is called Fort Wayne. So I go down to Fort Wayne. I meet him. I meet the owner of the airplane, like the head honcho guy, and chat with him. And they kind of get a feel for me, and I get a feel for them, and leave. And then like a day or two later, they said, hey, yeah, we'll bring you on. We'd love to have you.
That's awesome.
So it was awesome, and that that was incredible timing, incredible luck, and I just happened to call my former boss who knew of that opening, so for a former chief pilot, I guess. But anyways. So
you brought up two interesting points right there that I'd love to touch on.
Yeah.
For one, your reputation, and that is probably the biggest factor in aviation, because like everybody knows about you in aviation. When I started at Lake Clark, I sat down with Chief Pilot Aaron and I said, you've seen my resume, here's what's not on it. I told him about a failure that I'd had, and I was like, here's all the context with it. I didn't put it on there because there's more context. There's a mechanical failure that I didn't catch. So I was let go, but I was invited to reapply 200 hours later because what happened, my landings were kind of hard.
Yeah.
It was they had 11 controllability issues with it when it went in for maintenance.
Right.
And so I was like, so he was like, we're still letting you go, but you can reapply in 200 hours.
Right.
They like
you enough to invite you back.
Exactly. And so I sat Aaron down and I said, here's everything that happened. Here's, what was actually going on. And yes, I should have caught that. And here's why I didn't. And here's what I've learned from that since, and here's my track record since then. I'd had more than 1,000 hours flying largely that same airframe, and no issues,
no incidents, no issues. Right.
He goes, yeah, I know who you are, and I know that whole story.
Yeah, he probably knew whoever. And
yeah, he'd talk to everybody. He already knew my name and the actual aviation community is so small.
Yeah.
That your reputation, it's way better to protect your reputation than to try for short-term gains, because you're as a pilot, you're so highly invested in this. I mean, it's not like you can, it's not like just a college degree.
Right.
It's ongoing training. I've had 6 check rides this year, and I'm due for another one this month. Maybe 2, I don't know.
Right.
But it's an immense amount of effort to be in this industry, and if your reputation starts to get away from you in the least, everybody knows immediately. Immediately, like before you land. Right. Exactly. Everybody knows. And so the reputation component is huge, but also you touched on luck, and luck is huge, but stacking the deck
in your favor.
You stack the deck in your favor, and then you keep playing. And as long as you keep doing that, as long as you keep putting in the time and the effort, and maintaining good relationships with people, and I'm not talking about just asking for favors all the time. I'm talking about legitimate relationships with people. Right. And being there for others in the industry, and being part of the family of aviation and continuing your education as a pilot, trying to be a better pilot and trying to share that with others and bring other people up from below you. Those are all things you can do to stack the deck.
Right.
And so when you have to, when you need a little bit of luck, then you're way more likely.
You can leverage that.
Yeah.
And I think it goes even further too, as of like, you're right. It's super important to help people out and build relationships. But then also the little things add up. Showing up on time, doing the extra leg, like picking up that when it's really needed, or diverting because this person has a medical emergency and they need picked up now, or just things like that. Showing up on time is a really big one. And then being willing to go just a little bit extra, I think, is the other big one too. That helps a ton.
There was a study on earning, and I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it's something like if you work 10% more, you earn 40% more. It's completely non-proportional.
Right.
You show up just a few minutes early. You show up early enough that it's noticeable, and you stay late enough that it's noticeable and the work is done.
Right.
Then you're going to earn more than your peers.
Right.
And as soon as you set yourself apart, you start getting opportunities, and those opportunities aren't linear. It's not like you start making just a little bit more. It's like you get the job opportunity instead of somebody else.
Right.
You get the promotion before somebody else. And so that showing up early, that's absolutely a key part of it.
Right. Yeah. Showing up early, relationships like you touched on, and then just going the extra mile. And little things, and that adds up, and then that goes back to stacking the deck in your favor. And then the luck happens, right? So, and that's why I have a hard time with people like you see on social media, like, if you just take these 5 steps, you'll be where I'm at. Well, okay, the person you're telling that to, their situation's way different than yours. You should be telling them, instead, like we talked about, of showing up on time, being early, that kind of stuff. Not, if you follow these 5 steps, it's this. It's never that black and white.
No, especially in aviation where like the industry is so, it fluxes so much with how 121s hire. That's 100% of the determining factor in aviation. How many people are the majors hiring this year?
Right.
That determines how many job openings there are in the job that you want. And so, like, just following a paint by numbers scheme isn't going to get you where you want to go. And if you do that at the cost of building relationships and making sure that you're a continuing student of education, and making sure that you're building your reputation.
Right. Showing up, willing and able to work and learn. And then be humble and also take criticism when criticism comes your way too.
Absolutely.
Like you touched on, of like that guy said, hey, you could probably screw up your base a little bit. You could have responded and said, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, whatever, watch this. Instead, you took that in stride and said, oh yeah, that's probably a good point. Maybe I could work on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, swallowing your pride is no joke. Man. Like, especially, I don't know, I think my pride probably peaked around 1,500, 2,000 hours. I was like, I'm a real pilot now.
Right.
I've got some time.
I know a little something.
Yeah, I'm moving up. I've been flying in Alaska for 2.5, 3 years at that point. And then there's something you can learn from everybody, but like, man, you can't learn it all by yourself. You don't have enough luck to do that, first of all. That's the big thing. Like,
you run out of luck when you try things, right?
you really do. Like, you have to stay humble enough that you can learn enough to not die. Is one of the key things.
And then it also comes into being humble enough to know when to turn around, or be willing to turn around, or be willing to say no.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge thing. Like, especially with good equipment, you got some experience, you've been in there a couple of times. I had to I had to go missed out of a place twice yesterday because I could see the airport when I started the missed approach twice.
Oh, yeah, and that's so frustrating,
And
right?
the passengers could see it, and they were like, "It's right there. Can't you land?"
Yeah.
Nope. I'm already reconfigured. Like I'm already past the missed approach point.
I am already to the point of where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I'm not gonna like. But it would have been theoretically possible to reconfigure and dive back for it, but
if you're already making those movements to reconfigure for the go around, you're already on that path, and if you start trying to reverse that train, that's when you start running. That's when you start running into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the partial reconfigurations scare the hell out of me.
You and me both.
Yeah, like going in one direction and then stopping and going in the other direction. That's just a recipe for gear up.
Absolutely, or worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, gear ups usually aren't the worst thing to happen to the pilot, but there are worse things.
Yeah.
So you get into this 91, and you've obviously made some moves there, as you've already alluded to.
Yeah. So I started there, and they paid for my full type rating, and they paid for my ATP, which is amazing.
Wow.
This family I fly for are incredibly humble, kind, caring, and giving people.
Awesome.
So they do a lot to keep me around. So they paid for all that stuff, and the salary was really low the first year, and I think part of that was because they paid for the ATP and the initial type rating.
Yep.
And they didn't want to invest any more money in case I jumped ship after a year.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have done that, but I understand their cautiousness there. So then after that, I, bump in salary, and then after that got, became chief pilot there on the Sovereign.
Dude,
so it's kind of crazy.
So sick.
Yeah.
So what's it like being a chief pilot? What are your responsibilities? Walk us through.
Man, Aaron's probably going to laugh at this if he watches this episode, but honestly, under the 91 stuff, there's so much less paperwork, and it's honestly, we're not required to have a chief pilot, we're not required to have a director of maintenance or a director of operations, anything like that, so it's more just a title, but it still allows me to have management say in certain things of like maintenance, and I can make suggestions to our director of ops and say like, hey, the Sovereign's doing something funky with the bleed air on this side, we've got a couple warnings here and there. Like I can kind of push the issue a little bit on certain things too, and then if we pick up contract guys, I fly with the contract guys a lot of times and kind of vet them a little bit and see if it's someone we want to use again in the future. So it doesn't come with a lot of responsibilities in the traditional chief pilot role, but it still gives me some management sway in a lot of things.
So you get to have a little more push on the backside rather than just being like a normal pilot.
Just being the guy that flies, yeah. Right.
So how long have you been in that position?
As of January of this year, so it's still pretty fresh.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I feel like I've definitely earned that role in certain ways. Like I've showed up. It comes back. I've showed up on time. I've done a lot of extra stuff. Like so, in our flight department, the pilots, when we plan we get a trip that they want to do, and then it's on us as pilots to plan the rest of it. They have 8 people. They're going to XYZ airport. We're going to call the FBO, set up a rental car for them, make sure there's fuel there. We're basically doing all the backside of the work. They get to show up and get in the airplane. We land, they get off, and they get in their car and they go do whatever they're doing that day. So
sweet. So you're the full travel agency for
pretty much. Yeah.
Nice. And so do those responsibilities just go with being the chief pilot, or is that part of being a pilot as well?
I think it definitely comes with the chief pilot role more so because you're in that management position. I could dish off to someone else, or like the guy I'm flying with, I could dish some stuff off to him. And I do sometimes, but a lot of times I like having that piece of it under my watch and under my control, just so I know it's set up the way I think it should be.
Yeah, fair enough. So you're flying 2 pilot crew?
Yeah, Sovereign is always 2 pilot.
Okay, that's only rated as a 2 pilot bird. How do you delegate responsibilities in the cockpit?
So I would say majority of the time I'm flying with the director of ops, who's the main guy. It's almost always him and I. So we trade off seats, or we switch seats every other flight. Okay. So 2 days in a row I'll be flying left seat, and then the next 2 days he'll be flying the right seat. If I'm flying with the director of ops, I'd say 60% of the time he's doing the rental car and the FBO and all that, and calling ahead and that kind of stuff. And then other times he'll just delegate it to me too.
Yeah.
Sometimes when maybe he doesn't feel like doing it, or whatever the situation may be.
And so in the cockpit, what are the?
Yes. So the guy in the left seat's PIC. End of story. He's flying. The guy in the right seat's running radios and checklists and stuff like that too.
Oh, okay. So you don't do flying from the right seat, and okay.
Not normally. There's been a couple times where it's like we'll have an empty leg and we'll kind of look at each other and be like, "Do you want to fly from the right seat?" Yeah, sure. Let's try it. We haven't done it in a while, so
nice.
It's good to kind of keep some of those skills fresh.
Yeah.
But and then it goes back to, so yeah, we'll have the PIC guy, left side's flying all the time, and then right seat guy is running radios and checklists for him. And we don't have SOPs because we're 91, but we do have standard calls, power setter, speed alive, 80, V1 rotate, all the standard stuff you'd hear in a multi-crew airplane. And when you fly with the same set of guys over and over and over again all the time, you build this rapport and just exactly what the other guy's thinking before he calls for it, basically.
Yep. So going back to Alaska a little bit, do you have any stories from Alaska?
Oh, yeah.
What were some of the more memorable flights up here?
I would say that there's always one that I tell pretty frequently, but we were going from Anchorage to Togiak, and I was taking this mom and her, I think it was 4 kids if I remember right. And she had been stuck in Anchorage for maybe 3 or 4 days, but she was wanting to get back to Togiak.
Oh yeah.
And the weather was crap, and then finally there was just enough to where we could shoot the RNAV approach and get in. So we launch out of Anchorage and we climb up, and then we got the autopilot on. And we're getting out towards Togiak, kind of on the east side of Dillingham a little bit. And center comes on, they said, "Hey, just so you know, a caravan declared an emergency because they were picking up so much ice about 10 miles in front of you. Just going to give you a heads up there." I said, "Oh, okay, that's interesting."
And what are you in?
I'm in a Navajo at this point. Yeah, I should preface this. Yeah.
So Navajos are technically Fiki. They're technically rated for ice.
Right.
But it's an emergency pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. So I said, okay, we're going to keep pressing on. I've got Dillingham right over here.
Yep.
I can divert to, no big deal. And then sure enough, we get into the ice and we're kind of packing it on, but I'm spacing out the timing of the boots enough, and we're keeping our speed up enough that the ice is breaking away and it's not really affecting us. I'm adding a little more and more power. As we get within maybe 10 minutes of Togiak, I punch the boots a little too close in sequence, and I start bridging ice.
Yep.
And that's when it started to get a little hairy.
And so sorry to stop you there, but bridging ice is, for those who don't know, there are a couple of different ways to de-ice or anti-ice your flying surfaces, and one of them is pneumatic boots. And the way those work is it's just a piece of rubber or silicone, basically a couple of tubes of it that run out over the leading edge of your wings and empennage, and then it's up to you, the pilot, to decide when to blow those boots. And you want to blow them as soon as ice starts accreting, but you can't. If you blow them too soon, the ice hasn't fully frozen, and it hasn't accreted enough to actually break off when they inflate.
Yeah.
And so what'll happen is that the boots will inflate, and then the ice will freeze, and now you have a bridge of ice that sticks out to the shape of your inflated boot, and now you can't shed any more ice, and you've also lost a ton of lift all at once.
And you're adding weight too.
Yeah.
And I've read some online stuff that some people claim that ice bridging is not real. I've personally seen it happen.
I have as well.
I don't know where that comes from, but you're exactly right. The idea with boots is you got to let it build up a little bit.
Yep.
You got to let it build up. In the Sovereign, we have heated wings, heated tails, so you just turn that on, bleed air goes out, poof. It's
sick.
And we're climbing at 3,000 feet a minute through the ice, so we're hardly so it's really nice. But to get back to my story, so I'm starting the approach and bridge some ice. I'm like, oh crap, okay. It still feels good. I still have quite a bit of power left to play with if I need to. So I start bringing some pops in, start bringing up the manifold pressure, shoot the approach, and we get in. And yeah, there was a good amount of ice. Outside of the boots, there's probably like 1.5 to 2 inches, I bet.
Jeez.
It was a lot.
Jeez.
So we land, I'm like, oh, like I didn't realize how tense I was until I shut down the engines.
Oh yeah.
And then my body the mom in the back she got out and she was crying. She was so thankful. I'll never forget this. She gave me a big hug, and she looked at me. She's like, "Are you hungry?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, I could eat." She's like, "Stay right here." She drives off into the village, comes back, and she hands me this plate of fried chicken and rice and some canned smoked salmon that they made. And it was the best fried chicken I've ever had in my life. But I'll never forget that. So,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That community out here in Alaska, like, you end up flying the same people a lot. And I was talking to Aaron just the other day. Like, I threw up my back earlier this year. I was down in Perryville.
Yeah.
And I was in quite a bit of pain, but I was like, it didn't affect my flying. It just, I couldn't unload stuff. So I was like, "Hey guys, you're gonna have, your bags are right over there. Go grab them."
I'm in pain. I can't help you. Sorry.
I got to the next village, and they had somebody waiting on me.
Nice.
With some Tylenol. It was, dude, like, the community.
Special.
It's so cool. Like, they called ahead. They had people waiting.
Yeah.
And the guy came up and he goes, "Here, these are for you." And I was like, what, like,
How'd you know?
yeah, dude, that community here in Alaska it's one of the big reasons why I'm still here. I just, like, you don't get that. It's like, nobody on a 121 flight is going to go bring you a home-cooked meal after, because you got them home, you know?
Exactly.
Like, they're going to get off the plane and, you know,
Go get their bags and leave.
Exactly.
So that's I think that's a big part of what I miss of flying up here, is how fulfilling it was. Like, the flying part is amazing, and Alaska should be on every pilot's bucket list, and the flying is incredible. I cannot emphasize that enough. But the fulfillment of serving some of these people out here, and then having them be so grateful in return, or just kind of watching out for you, like in your situation with the Tylenol, my situation with the home-cooked meal, it's just so fulfilling. And don't get me wrong, the people I fly for are an amazing family, good people.
Yeah,
they treat me great, very laid back, very humble and kind. But I'm just taking them to their winter home in Florida, or taking them to their summer home in Canada. And that's fun, and I enjoy that. But flying here, you're serving a much bigger purpose for these people out here. And I think that part's fulfilling. I really do miss that a lot.
Well, in most cases, you're the only connection to the outside world.
Right.
Like, technically, you can get to a few of these places on a boat, but it's like days
or weeks.
Yeah, and like, you can't even get all the way to Anchorage most of the time. You have to go to Whittier, and then you have to rent a car, and it's like, no, this is the means of transportation.
Yeah.
This is Rue. I don't think she's been on the podcast before, but somehow she was left out.
That's all right.
And Rue is very licky.
Yep.
You can lay down. You can lay down right here. So back at your new job, have you had any exciting flights with the Sovereign?
Honestly, not really. Maybe I'm a little numb to it from flying up there.
Fair enough.
The family that I fly for, they have a lake house up in Canada, just north of Toronto, a little ways on Lake Huron there. And the only airport that's nearby is a 4,900 foot strip by 50 feet. It's real tiny.
50 feet?
50 feet wide.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's tiny. And the Sovereign's like probably the biggest airplane you can get in there.
Yeah.
And it's surrounded on all sides by trees.
Oh, wow.
It gets a little windy because it's close to the lake too. So that's kind of fun and exciting. We have numbers for it all day. Like, we can, if we have a lighter load, we'll see 2,500 feet of ground roll,
Nice.
while weighing 23,000 pounds.
Jeez.
Which is kind of crazy, because we've got the Sovereign's an amazing airplane. It's got huge flaps, 5 speed brakes on each side that come up.
Oh, wow.
Big reversers and big brakes. Like, 90% of the time, if I've got the reverses out and I'm giving it power, I don't even have to touch the brakes.
Yeah.
But on the 2,500 foot, on the 4,900 foot strip, we're using, all of our resources there.
Yeah.
So going back to your question about the excitement, that airport's kind of fun because you get trees on all sides, and I use how it is in Port Ellsworth, you get over the trees and you dip down to land.
Absolutely, yeah.
I use that technique there in a jet, which I think is kind of fun.
Dude, yeah, so I was training a guy this year and forgot to tell him about that. And so, like, what happens is in Port Ellsworth, you have tree line. It's surrounded on your the way you generally approach has trees on 3 sides, and then the runway starts, 200 feet after the trees, something like that. And so, and if the headwind is quartering at all, it drops at the tree line.
Yep, it'll drop you right out.
So the technique is that you come over pointed 500 feet beyond where you want to touch down, and then as soon as you hit the trees, you push the nose down.
Yep.
And then you hit your spot.
Out and
And so
I get to use that in the Sovereign in a big jet, which I find a lot of fun. Because like your standard, stabilized approach, right? You're flying basically the glide slope all the way down until you get, 50 feet, and then you're starting to flare and round out and whatever else you need to do to land. But so that's your typical jet landing.
Yep.
This airport, I like to do that technique because I can get down before I can touch down before the 1,000-foot markers on there, and I can get her stopped and slow down, no problem. So whereas I've flown with other guys in the jet that they just roll on out, or they just kind of keep it coming down, they don't drop down, and they just do the typical jet landing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think with shorter runways, it's fun. So I've carried some Alaska stuff with me into the jet. But then going back to your original question, if anything too exciting, I've done some approaches down to minimums. We've had bleeder leaks, but nothing too serious. Like the jet's pretty robust and reliable, and we're not taking them into gravel strips and heavy conditions. So
not doing 11 gravel strip landings in the afternoon.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'd say that small airport in Canada has been the most exciting. We go in there really regularly.
Nice.
But yeah, approaches down to minimums, and just some non-emergency maintenance issues.
So flying in Alaska, you've flown the whole peninsula. What are some of your favorite places to fly into, and why?
I would say going into King Cove or Sandpoint, Perryville, those areas, the Chigs too. Definitely the Pacific side.
Yep.
Because you have the Aglean Pinnacles out there, which I know you've seen on a clear, sunny day.
I'll post a picture.
Yeah, please do for the folks there at home. But it's hard to beat that.
Dude.
On a clear, calm, sunny day, you're weaving between volcanoes. You can kind of have a little fun because you're VFR, right? So you can say, well, I'm going to go around the Cape here and work my way through. Oh, there's no wind. I'm going to try this pass and see what's down there. Within reason, obviously. Right. But so I'd say probably the Chigs, or probably King Cove.
Yeah, King Cove.
Chigs more so. The scenery is amazing in the Chigs too, but more so for the challenge of going into those airports too.
We have a saying on here. It's always the Chigs.
It's always the Chigs, of course.
So, for those who might just have not heard about them before, the Chigs, the Chignik means big wind in their native language, and it's this a pass that goes through the Aleutian chain of mountains, and the low pressure systems are typically either over the Bering Sea or over the Pacific Ocean, and so wind is typically going east to west or west to east, and so on the windward side of the peninsula you'll have smooth air, but it's foggy, and then on the leeward side you'll have unrestricted visibility and moderate turbulence the whole time.
Right.
And the Chigniks is the worst of everything, because no matter what's going on, half of it's fogged in and the other half is super turbulent.
Yep.
And the thing about going mist in the Chigs is you have to keep flying in the Chigs.
Right. Exactly.
You're not out of the weeds yet.
Right. Exactly. It's fun from a challenging point of view too, but then you can't beat it on a clear, calm day. Dude, on a rare, clear, calm day.
When it's the middle of summer and all the boats are out and the water's shining on Chignik Lagoon and you see all the blues and greens in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is one of the prettier places that I've flown to.
When I talk to friends or family down in the lower 48 and they ask me kind of some of those questions too, and I try to describe, it's hard, it's impossible to describe until you see it with your own eyes, and the shades of blue and browns and just all the different colors you see down there are amazing. And then even in the winter, all the stark white in the mountains, the mountains are so much more imposing when they're covered in that stuff, you know.
Yeah, and they have like the exposed black of the volcanoes, which on the steeper faces.
So there's just that incredible contrast.
Yeah,
it's hard to beat. I wish I had a really good camera, or it made sense to take a camera in the cockpit, you know?
I've tried. I've taken this camera.
Yeah.
No matter how many times I try, it's just, it doesn't, I don't even like post them or show my wife most of the time because it doesn't do it justice.
I told my wife that too. She's like, why don't you show me any more pictures? I said, well, I can, and here's some, but it's not quite the same.
No, it's so wild. And to like have that all around you when you're landing is just wild. Like you're down flying below, the peaks are usually 2,500 to 4,500, and then you have a few volcanoes that get up quite a bit higher than that, and to be like surrounded by that on all sides.
It's pretty cool when you're flying and you're in the air and you look up at something, right? You need to look up at a formation of rocks that should be, you know, below you.
Absolutely.
I think that's really cool. There's been a lot of times where I've landed on the Chigs or Perryville or wherever, and I just kind of take a second and look around, and it's like dead quiet.
Yep.
And you kind of look around at everything and just try to take it in as much as you can.
Dude, I've broken down in the Chigs, or in Perryville twice, and in Sandpoint once. And you know what? I wasn't upset about it any of those times. I was like, this is just gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, like Perryville's this little, it's right under a volcano, and so everything around it, all the mountains are pitch black, and then you have
like sand beach.
Yeah, gorgeous sand beach, and then these spires of mountains sticking out of the perfectly blue water all around. It's so beautiful when it's clear out, but then it's like it's
tough when the weather's tough.
Yeah, exactly.
I take back my answer. I think Perryville actually might be my favorite. Yeah, given the sights there. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild down there. Yeah. Do you flying? So you fly not only in the States but up in Canada. Do you have airports that you really enjoy going to, or places that you really enjoy seeing from the air there?
I would say, so we don't go into Canada a ton, mostly just that one small airport. We did go into Calgary recently, which is like the gateway for Banff. But Calgary is still kind of in the plains. That wasn't too exciting. I would say one of my favorites we would go to would be Monterey, California. And I don't know if you've ever been down there in that area, but
I'm not sure I have.
It's this beautiful area, and it's this ritzy town, but they have this bay, and there's these mountains kind of on all sides, and the water's right there, and then there's a runway right here, and they have commercial service and stuff in and out of it. But we would go out there occasionally for a car show. But that's a favorite one of mine. I like going out there. So the scenery's beautiful, the approach is fun, and it's a great area to be around in. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, if you get the chance, just Google it. There's some famous golf courses out there too. Okay. I don't golf or anything, but
I actually did recently go to St. Andrews, which was the first golf course. It's
in Scotland, I think? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I don't golf at all, but Caden, our office manager, does, so I got him a little golf ball.
Oh, cool. I bet he loved that.
Exactly. So for somebody who's on the outside looking in, we've talked about the importance of reputation, the importance of the role that luck plays, and just like working hard and putting in the extra time. What other pointers do you have for somebody who's like, look, I really want to fly in Alaska, or I really want to be flying Part 91. How do I get there?
I would say, I'll break it into two parts because you mentioned the Alaska and the 91, they're the corporate stuff. So for Alaska, I would say just take a leap of faith and move up here. And whether that means you have to go back to instructing, do that, or working ramp, do that. Overall, be very patient. As you touched on, aviation is a very small community. It's so much smaller in Alaska. So building that reputation, proving your worth either as a ramp guy, a mechanic, a CFI, like whatever it takes to get your name out there, network, build your reputation, and get that leverage. And being patient. Being patient is so important. I struggle with that. I'm not a patient guy. You can ask my wife. But that's a big piece of it is reputation and network in Alaska. The second part you talked about with corporate, Part 91, that's still a big part of it, especially in the 91 world. having the right connections goes really far, but to have those connections, you need to have the right reputation, like we talked about earlier.
Yep.
For the 135 side of things, like if you want to do a corporate or a charter company and a jet down the lower 48, it's less so about that, but you still have to prove you're worth their time and investment. Because when a company does take you on, it's a big investment in time and money. Yeah, especially when you're getting type ratings involved. And that's why a lot of them have a year or 2 year training contracts. But that's another story for another day. 135s are a little easier to get into. 91 gets a little harder, and then Alaska also is somewhat hard to break into as well. We're talking about Aaron a little bit too, but when I first started with Lake Clark Air, he was a little wary of me because he didn't know me. I didn't have any other connections up here, so he couldn't call on anyone else. So he kept a pretty close eye on me for a little while. I remember one flight specifically, I'll never forget this. He had me ride along with him in a Navajo. We went, I want to say like King Salmon, and then he had me fly because we were empty to Pilot Point, and I did a landing at Pilot Point in the Navajo, and I think after that he's like, okay, this guy's probably okay. He may have other additions to that story, but all that to say is I think I got some leverage and built some of my reputation from some of that stuff.
From just being patient and waiting until you had the opportunity to prove who you were as a pilot.
Exactly. So yeah, because I did the 207, the Bonanza, and then I got in the Navajo with him. He basically told me to come along with him, and then had me fly it. I think he wanted to see what I could do in the Navajo. So
nice.
Yeah.
So you talked about moving up here for guys who want to fly up here. This is something that as a trainer for Lake Clark we see every year. People are interested in coming up here. They want a commitment from us before they move up. And it's like, first of all, we want to put you in an airplane before we make you a job offer. We have, we want to see how you handle an airplane, how you handle stress, how you're making decisions before we start the whole training process. And sometimes that's with us. Sometimes we have other operators or other flight schools who work with candidate pilots, and will suss out who they are, and so that ability to be on site and just shake hands, like, hey, I moved up here, I'm looking for work. If you want to take me on as a ramper until you have a pilot opening, that's great. I'll stay here. I'm willing to work the winter in order to be first in line for a pilot opening in the spring. And that looks a whole lot better than, I have 2,000 hours of instructing in the States. It's like, the 2,000 hours is 2,000 hours, but if you've never been more than 50 miles away from your home airport, we're going to need to see something that shows that,
that you're competent enough to make decisions away from your home airport.
And that, like, there's a lot that goes into it. Like, is it a right pattern where you're going? Is this runway that you're landing at a right pattern? Are you on the correct CTAF and not the multicom? That's something that happens all the time in Sandpoint. You pull up frequencies. You go into your 530. You pull up frequencies. You see 0.9. Everything down the chain is 0.8, 0.9, 0.8, 0.9, checkered all the way down. You get to Sandpoint. Multicom is 0.9. CTAF is 0.3. And that happens so frequently that now we monitor 0.9. Because there are people who come in there announcing on 0.9 and have no idea.
They'd sneak up on you pretty quick if you weren't listening. So that comes down to tribal knowledge. I mean, that's written obviously, but that's also some more tribal knowledge right there too, right?
Absolutely. Making sure that you understand a little bit about where you're going in, and that you're prepared for the airports that you're going into, and that you're able to do that ahead of time, that you're prepared ahead of time, but also that you can make those decisions in flight, because you don't always know exactly where you're going to end up. And so, whether it gets bad here or you have an extra pickup there, you may need to be briefing stuff while you're hand flying, going to an airport you've never been to. And so, that ability to
pick up on some of those smaller details. prove your worth, basically. Yeah, that like you're a good stick and you have a good head on your shoulders is huge. That's definitely, I think, a huge piece of it too. That and being patient. And being patient is so hard because you're sitting there at 1,000 hours or whatever, and you're like, I want to fly professionally, and I'm getting frustrated.
Yeah, and man, 1,000 hours, like, you know, 5 years ago when I was coming up, if you hitting 1,000 hours was just like, you know, you were somebody,
right?
But it does change, and honestly, like 1,000 hours is kind of a dangerous place to be. Where if you look at the accident statistics, it goes like 750 hours to 1,500 or 2,000 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
The accident rate goes up and spikes substantially above other pilots, both lower and higher time.
People get really complacent, and there's probably other people have probably used this term, but I call it the 100-hour rule. You hit 100 hours flying, office job, like whatever you're doing, right? So you hit 100 hours in your office job and you get really comfortable, but before those 100 hours, you're still new and you're making sure everything's right because you don't want to mess up, right? Then you get a little more comfortable at 100 hours. And it's 100 hours an arbitrary number. It could be 1,000, could be 5, whatever, but you hit that 100 hours, you get a little more comfortable, and then you get complacent, and then you kind of start missing some stuff. So that accident statistic that you're bringing up, I think, adds some validity to that. As a pilot, as a private pilot, you hit 100 hours, you're like, oh, I've got 100 hours. I feel pretty confident.
Yeah.
I'm complacent now. I don't, you know, and then you start missing stuff, and that's where it starts to that's where it can get dangerous.
You start skipping through your briefings. You start, oh, well, there weren't any NOTAMs the other day. Oh, I'm just looking at the flight rules and not the wind conditions.
Right. I was just there yesterday. It was fine yesterday.
Yeah, especially in spring breakup out here.
Right.
You could be there 2 hours apart and have completely different runway conditions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if you're not on top of it, and you're I think Glenn Sr., the owner of Lake Clark Air, put it really well. One of the pilots one day said, I'm not really comfortable with this flight. And Glenn Sr., and I don't want to portray this wrong, so I'm gonna try to be careful in how I say this. So bear with me. He said, if I only flew when I was comfortable, I'd have 100 hours.
Right.
And I think that's a really good mentality to have. That you have that edge of what am I missing? What else can I check? What other information is there for me on this flight? Right.
I think that's a very good way to put it. Of like, don't push the envelope to where it's unsafe, but nudge yourself a little bit and push yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yep.
If you really truly feel uncomfortable, it is a really bad situation, then say no or get out of there, right?
Yeah.
But if you're uncomfortable because you haven't been in there before and the winds are blowing the opposite direction than you're used to, maybe talk to someone about it, see what your options are.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe there's a different approach to it that you don't know.
Absolutely. And maybe there's some way that you can mitigate. There was one thing that happened. I was supposed to go over to Kaktovik out of Dead Horse one day, and I looked at the METARs and TAF, and it said low IFR. And I was like, I canceled the flight, and my DO came back and he said, talk to our chief pilot. Yeah. And we pulled up the cams, and it, like, looking out, the Viz looked like a mile. But he said, look up. It's blowing snow. Yeah. So it was perfectly VFR. He was going based off several different things, where the low pressure systems were. There are no other airports around there, so you can't get other data points. It's really slim. Yeah. But you can tell where you can look at the cloud coverage, you can look at the low pressure systems, and you can determine whether it's clouds or if it's just the snow blowing across the sensor. And sure enough, I got out there, it was beautiful VFR all the way there. There was blowing snow, and it was obscuring the
no problem. But you had that outside opinion and insight into it, right? Someone that maybe had some more experience in that area. Absolutely. Saying like, well, hang on, let's get a second opinion on this. Right. And I think it's so important.
There was that additional information. It wasn't that I was just charging into the unknown. Right. It was that I was getting that extra information, that second opinion from somebody who was an authority on the subject.
Right, exactly. I had something similar going to Port Allsworth, and I talked to Senior. Senior took off, and I talked to Glenn Jr. They both kind of had this same opinion of there was ice fog off of Lake Clark, you know how it is going into Port Allsworth, and it comes in and out, in and out. And I said, I don't really want to go out there. Said, well, come try it. If not, you can go land at Iliamna. It's clear there, and we can reassess. But it was a similar situation in the sense of like they had a lot more experience with it, and they knew I was capable of getting in. I just had not seen it from the proper perspective of like, okay, yeah, I still can do this. We just have to go out and take a look, basically.
Do it the right way with the right information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself going from here? What's on the horizon?
That I don't know yet, and I'm trying to parse that out. I've been talking to some mentors of mine in aviation, and like, I don't want to come off as like ungrateful for this job that I have, because this job I have is amazing. But I will say I am kind of getting bored with this job, and I don't know if it's just because I'm coming from Alaska flying, right? So I don't know. There's a big part of me that wants to try airlines, so I can put the 121 stuff in my logbook and say I tried that. But that's a huge commitment just to try it. And if I don't like it, I can leave. I think as of right now, I'm going to stay put where I'm at. I'm really enjoying my 91 gig. It's very easy. The schedule is really good, and the people I fly for and fly with are excellent. So as of right now, I guess to answer your question, I'm going to stay put at least for the next 4 or 5 years, I bet.
What about ratings or personal flying?
Personal flying, I would love to go back and get my commercial seaplane.
Nice.
And in hopes of doing some summer float flying up here for a lodge. And I would also love to get my commercial helicopter as well. The commercial helicopter is a little lower on my list because there's not a ton of commercial helicopter opportunity in Indiana. So that would be definitely a goal of mine, would be, yeah, commercial seaplane for sure. And maybe even multi-seaplane.
Nice. You got somewhere in mind for?
I don't actually. I was thinking a couple places up here, but I don't know for sure yet. So.
Yeah, there are a couple good places, and then down in Florida as well.
Yeah, I actually got my initial private single-engine private seaplane in Talkeetna with Don Lee.
No way.
When he was still around. I mean, he is still around before he retired, I guess I should say. So.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah,
he's a legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, what a cool experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, Kevin Hawkins.
John, thanks so much
for coming on the podcast.
Of course, I had a lot of fun.